You know, sometimes it's easier to talk to a robot rather than a human being, and that's part of the motivation behind a chatbot designed to help people in abusive or dysfunctional relationships. Rainbow is an artificial intelligence-powered smart companion that will respond to messages in real time from people who need help. Tomorrow, the international awareness campaign 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence kicks off, and Rainbow offers some solutions. It can be accessed 24/7 via Facebook Messenger. And to tell us more, I'm joined in studio by Joanne van der Walt from the Sage Foundation. Joanne, thank you very much for coming in. Tell me about Rainbow and how did this idea come about, and where does the Sage Foundation come in?
So Rainbow was launched about a year ago, and to date it's had 800,000 conversations with 16,000 users in South Africa, mostly Gauteng. And when we started out with the journey of designing Rainbow, and why we thought it was a good idea, is that we know that women in abusive situations basically have three main barriers to accessing help. The first one is shame. So the family members and people that they know ask them, you know, what have you done? What do you do to provoke him? They often, the victim feels like they're embarrassed or ashamed of the situation. The second is fear. So a lot of the time, the woman that's in that relationship lives with their abuser. They can't get onto the phone or onto a helpline to speak to someone in a call center when they live with that person. And finally, trust. So they don't have much trust in the system. Going to the police isn't always the way to go. They struggle with reporting. So we thought if we proposed a non-human response to a very human problem, it would open the gateway to women being able to speak about the situations that they're in.
And it's not about downloading an app, because I can imagine if one is in an abusive relationship, you might have a partner who goes through and sees what you're doing online. You can access this simply, and I tried this last night, by typing in Hi Rainbow in Facebook Messenger, and then you search for it, you find it, and there's a conversation. It slightly prompts you to move forward, yes. But there's quizzes. You can see there my interaction.
Yes.
And it introduces itself, and it's quite interesting how it just allows you to take a little quiz, checks your thinking, and I think this is probably one of the biggest things about people in abusive relationships, is they lose perspective. They lose perspective of what is abusive because it becomes normalized in this relationship. So this is a little conversation you can have with a robot.
Yes.
So in other words, there's no human being judging you.
No.
Just to guide you on signs that you might be in an abusive relationship, and then also where to get help. So tell me a little bit more about what else the chatbot offers.
So exactly that. It signposts users to be able to access help outside of Rainbow, so it hands them off to a human. So a lot of the time, Rainbow will be able to take the conversation to a certain point and then no further. And thereafter, it signposts to either a call center, command center, South African Anxiety and Depression Group, Alcoholics Anonymous. And we recognized from what users gave us, because we did a lot of beta testing before we launched Rainbow. So we did focus groups with about 100 women in Gauteng, and then we also tested with about 2,000 users before we launched it out into the public. And we recognized that there were a couple of themes that emerged. And in an abusive relationship, it's often alcohol abuse. What's going to happen to my children? What are the consequences if I leave? Financial dependency, etc. So we selected what those resources were based on what the users were telling us. So we really made sure that Rainbow was designed so that it's actually useful to the person that's using it.
It's one part of the help package that a woman in an abusive relationship might need. It's not the whole thing. But have you had anyone arriving perhaps at a shelter saying the Rainbow app helped me? Have you had any responses like that?
So it is difficult to track what happens to the user after they leave Rainbow. We signpost them to the 6 or 7 different resources. What we've recently discovered is that there's a big need for access to legal information. They don't know what their legal rights are, and they want to find out. So there's a lot of development that's going to go into the next phase of Rainbow, where we actually signpost them to how to apply for a court order, how to get access to legal help, etc. But that's sort of where we are in the second phase of Rainbow. We need to do a lot of work around natural language understanding and also legal access.
Rainbow can't obviously, as you say, answer all questions,
yes.
or Bo, as she likes to be called. And I noticed I asked a question about privacy in my chat, and it was a very sweet message saying, oh gosh, I'm still learning human, I don't understand everything. And then I rephrased my question and I said, is my data safe, or is my data private? And then up popped a privacy control issue. But that is a big concern. What are the risks, especially if we've seen the problems with Facebook and data being used by advertisers, that information that a person is sharing very privately with the Rainbow chatbot is going to be somehow used by Facebook, and suddenly I'll be going through my timeline and I'll see all these ads for what to do if you're in an abusive relationship, for example. How do you secure it?
No, so that has come up in the past. You know, when I've chatted about Rainbow, privacy is a big issue. People want to know. So it's developed in the UK by Kriti Sharma. Kriti is a UN ambassador for AI, and the data is all aggregated and it's all compliant with GDPR laws in the UK. As far as South Africa is concerned, the same thing. So we comply very much with privacy laws. If we do gather data around trends, like we have done, we know that users are looking for legal information, etc. That is aggregated data. You could never drill down and say it's this user and this is their name and this is the region that they're from. The only reason that we know that a lot of our users are in Gauteng is because at the beginning of this campaign we did a lot of promoted posts and a lot of advertising on Facebook in the Gauteng area to try and attract people to use Rainbow and to share it. So yes, we do take data and privacy extremely seriously.
Is it only in English?
Yes, at this stage of the game it is only in English.
Does that mean that you're considering other languages too?
You know, I know we've had a lot of interest from Brazil, interestingly enough.
I'm talking about in South Africa.
Yes, yeah.
Languages.
At this stage, no. It's English for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only barrier to entry really is connectivity.
Exactly. So the data is an issue. We can't be all things to all people, so we recognise that at the start of this journey, data is going to be something which a user will have to be able to access Facebook Messenger.
Well, thank you very much for coming in and telling us about that. That is Joanne van der Walt from the Sage Foundation telling us about a very interesting chatbot that can help women in abusive relationships. Let's move